17th, District Operations Committee.
Turn it
Roll call.
on. Yes, good morning. Director Matt Sampson,
Here.
Director Jed Smith.
Here.
And Chair Larry Russell.
Here.
Absent today are Vice Chair Ranjiv Kush and Director Monty Schmidt.
Okay, cool. I need a motion to adopt agenda.
So moved.
Second. Any public comments?
There are none.
Roll call.
Director Sampson,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Aye.
Chair Russell.
Aye.
Thank you.
Public comment on non-agenda matters.
There are none.
Okay. Need a motion to approve the minutes of the Operations Committee meeting from April 5.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Director Sampson,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Aye.
Chair Russell,
Aye.
and there were no comments for it. that
Okay,
item.
great. Item B, asphalt, concrete paving, restoration and concrete work contract.
Hi, good morning, directors. I'm Alex Anaya, Engineering Director. And this morning we have a presentation by our Engineering Manager of Construction, Mark Casray, on the paving contract. And the, comes every couple of years, 3 years to renew the contract. So that's what we'll be presenting today. So go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, good morning, Chair Russell and members of the board. Mark Casray, Engineer Manager of Construction. Item B before you is a review of a proposed contract for asphalt and concrete flat work associated with the operations division of repair and maintenance of our underground infrastructure. So we'll be presenting this contract to you as a review and refer to the full board with a recommendation to award. This presentation will not be discussing the ongoing measures that we're taking to control the increase in paving costs that we've seen over the last few years. We'll be bringing that discussion as well as some recommendations to the board at a future meeting. This presentation will go over a brief recap of our program. We'll provide an update to the board regarding paving costs with current data as of fiscal year 23. We'll discuss the contract before you and then complete the presentation with a recommendation. So the district's paving program is essentially twofold. You've got the operations component, you've got the capital projects component. Our operational paving needs are met through this multi-year on-call contract, which performs more than 400 restorations per year. On the capital project side, our paving needs are met as individual bid items of work that's paid for under the capital project itself, and it's typically seen with our pipeline replacement projects. Under both scenarios, encroachment permits are required when we perform work in the right-of-way, and those encroachment permits stipulate conditions of the work, of course, and the extent of the paving that's required by the jurisdiction having authority. Moving on to our paving costs, since the last time we came to the board with a report, we have concluded fiscal year 23 with actual operational costs coming in at roughly 3.3 million, a 980% increase from 2012. So the plot on the right shows our actual operational paving costs through 23, as well as our estimated cost in 24, and that's shown in blue. We compare that to two common metrics. One is our unit pricing, how much we pay per square foot or per quantity on the contract, as well as the Engineering News Record Construction Cost Index. The ENR is typically tracking the average cost of construction throughout the United States, and of course, in this case, the Bay Area. As you can see, growth in paving costs remains in an upward direction and continues to be largely attributed to increasingly stringent and extensive paving restoration requirements from these jurisdictions having authority. The number of street openings per year or the number of work orders that are performed to restore the roadways has remained flat year over year. Our contract unit pricing has increased by approximately 185% over this same time frame. As well, the ENR construction cost index has increased by approximately 48% over this time frame. We estimate that we'll spend roughly 2.7 million this fiscal year, which represents an 18% decline since prior year. And we attribute 2023 to a number of large main breaks. You can see that 2023 is a bit high. And we had a number of large main breaks that totaled about 1.1 million, which is significantly above the average cost of our large main breaks.
Do you include the cost of repaving for construction projects?
So that's a great question. Essentially, this construction contract, 85% of the costs for this are borne by the operations budget because it's directly related to the operations work. There are some works that are about 15% of that total contract amount is funded through capital and through reimbursable projects. To your question, Director Russell, our capital projects are not included in these costs. And 10 largest main breaks is a metric that is important to track and monitor. It's one that we commonly track year over year. Over the last several years, the cost of our 10 largest main breaks is roughly $500,000 to $700,000 per year. It represents about 2 to 3% of our total number of work orders, but also accounts for 25 to 35% or more of our total contract expenditures. And so this does introduce certain variability in our actual cost year over year and estimating future expenses as well. The table on the right shows our 10 largest main breaks for this year, totaling roughly $700,000. So while it is important to recognize the large main breaks do introduce some variability in our expenditures, we don't see a sustained increase or upward trend in the number of street openings or the number of large main breaks year over year. In other words, we don't see a correlation between our increase in paving costs and the number of leak repairs or the number of large main breaks. And tracking these main breaks and repetitive leaks are one important component of our asset management program, which helps to inform our future CIP. For example, some main breaks in the city of San Anselmo and in Corte Madera have helped to inform and identify the Sir Francis Drake pipeline replacement project and the Granada pipeline replacement project. And both of those are beginning construction this coming month. And in turn, of course, we anticipate that these investments in our infrastructure will reduce our ongoing leaks and our maintenance costs, as well as our pavement restoration costs.
The reason these are more expensive is the hole's bigger.
That's a great question as well. And this slide identifies that. Essentially, the holes are bigger, yes, but when you have a large main break, such as that shown in these photos, the volume of water compromises the subgrade of the roadway, which affects the bearing capacity of the pavement. And so oftentimes when you have a large main break, you're required to do a full reconstruction of the roadway, full depth all the way to the rock or the aggregate base that supports the road. And so that's what we're seeing here in the photos. The two largest main breaks this year in D Street, San Rafael, and Tunstead Avenue, San Anselmo. So as we prepared the contract for your consideration, we estimated the next 5 years, and we can explain that time period in the next slide. We just look at how much we've spent over the last time period, in this case, since 2012. So this slide shows our actual paving contract costs per fiscal year. And as you can see, fiscal year 23 is unusually high, which we did attribute to these large main breaks that we saw last year. And as such, we're treating 23 as a little bit of an outlier. We've reduced our anticipated expenditures through the next 5 fiscal years. And you could see that our overall increase in costs are flattening out a little bit.
So the increase is just inflation?
Yes, exactly. These increases shown over the next 5 years anticipated are roughly 10%, which falls in line with current ENR pricing, but more importantly, with our contract unit pricing. So that's what we're expecting when bids come in next week on this contract. So we do open bids on the proposed contract on May 21st, this Tuesday. The contract period is 3 years, completing in June 30th, 2027. And it includes an option to extend the contract for up to 2 additional years in 1-year increments. And we do recommend to the Operations Committee to review and refer the contract to the full board with a recommendation to award.
Are the contractors cool with the term of the contract?
Yes, yes. We've never received any concern from contractors. Essentially, the 3-year period. So we select the low bid contractor based on the cumulative total of the individual pricing for each fiscal year. So we show bid pricing for all 3 years, and historically, the contractor has priced in about a 10% increase per year, and then we consider extending the contract. And in this case, we're fixing the pricing for those 2 options to extend the contract for additional 2 years. We're fixing that pricing to the engineering news record construction cost index, which right now we anticipate to be about 6%.
Why? I mean, I understand it saves money, but if that's not going to work for them, you said it was 185 versus 48.
Yeah, it's a good point. So, as we solicited the contract, what we don't want to see, we don't want to be in a position of trying to negotiate a contract extension and an imbalance of like a power dynamic there. We want to pay the contractor fair and reasonably, but reflective of what the market condition is dictating. So this term for controlling the cost for the next 2 fiscal years, the last 2 of the proposed contract, is in the bidding documents. So the contractor can see that, and they can adjust the pricing that they include in their first 3 years to account for that discrepancy.
Mhm.
So it's just a way that we're identifying, how we'll extend the contract if we choose to execute that option.
Any other questions?
Yeah, in previous meetings around our requirements for paving, we've talked about a lot of different jurisdiction requirements, and there was an offer, I think, to work with county from several supervisors and other folks so that we could have a more consistent ability to plan. And I think we discussed that. And I'm just wondering, have we made any progress? Because it seems like several of our cities are pushing a lot more burden on us than others.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
So yeah, I can respond to that. So what we brought to the board last year was an intent to implement a study with a consultant to look at just this exact same thing. We're looking at a number of case studies to gather a better understanding of the city's perspective and how utility cuts impact roadway. And that project is underway right now, and there's 3 essential components to that. One was the evaluation phase, which has since been completed. That evaluated the standards, what we've seen to date, as well as these case studies. And what's currently underway is a recommendation. And so we're preparing a recommendation for what we're proposing, or what we may propose to the board, for a pilot study that we may interact with these other jurisdictions to find a more optimal approach to how we complete the street restorations associated with our pipeline projects. So the evaluation is underway right now, and we're going to present the recommendations to the board this summer.
what did you say was completed so far?
An evaluation, the first about 2 quarters were to essentially get the consultant on board to be aware of what's happening. It's pretty elaborate, and so they reviewed our several projects. They reviewed our standards. They looked at the county standards as well as case studies.
I just want to remind us that this isn't the agenda item, so brief answers I think are completely appropriate, but
Okay.
we should
Isn't it,
probably-
given that we're talking about paving costs?
Well, I think that this is a separate project that's underway, and that it's not been agendized to get into too much depth on it. I think it is relevant to, address where we are, but
Right. But we
I
are
wanna-
approving a contract with paving costs that's impacted by different jurisdictions.
sure, but we did not agendize the pilot study or the evaluation that we're talking about. So I think it's appropriate to have some questions and answers. I just don't want us to get into too deep of a discussion.
Jed, can I ask just real quickly, anticipate date that we'd see the results of what you've been working on?
We're anticipating the end of July. I believe it's July 17th or 19th.
And that specifically would be a summary of this just initial phase. It's just kind of the foundational, but really the proposal, the framework of a pilot. And I'd expect by that point, we will have the jurisdictions that we'll pilot with as part of that. So we'll bring that full package and hopefully move forward the pilots at that time.
But this contract is a 3-year contract?
Yes, this is a 3-year contract just to essentially restore the roadways associated with our operational repairs of water pipelines.
Right. And it's all based on unit costs. So were we to be successful in the pilots or during the pilots, it's independent of this contract because presumably the area would be less, but the unit costs will be regardless of
The
size
pilots wouldn't
project.
impact the expenditure
Correct.
with this comment. With this
Hopefully it'll
contract.
bring it down, but this is an as needed contract, so that won't impact it.
Any public comment?
There are none.
Okay, can I get a motion to refer this to the full board?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mark. Item C, capital improvement program, Tiburon Pipeline Replacement Project.
Okay, good morning. This morning we have Ava Prejean, one of our newest engineers in the design group, who's got a couple of projects to present today. So she'll be presenting the Tiburon Pipeline project. Interesting fact, kind of to note about this project, it does coincide with our FFIP, our Fire Flow Improvement Program. So a portion of this is paid through our capital program that's budgeted for over the 2-year budget, and the other component of this will be paid through our Fire Flow project. So Ava.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Today, I will be presenting 3 projects. The first project is the 2024 Tiburon Pipeline Replacement Project. The project is located primarily along Paradise Drive within the town of Tiburon. The project will install approximately 3,490 feet of 8-inch, 6-inch, and 4-inch new pipe, along with appurtenances to replace old leak-prone pipe installed as early as 1922. As Alex mentioned, this project is a part of both the district's capital improvement project and the fire flow improvement program. The district has been in coordination with the town of Tiburon in regards to its upcoming full-depth road restoration project. By replacing corresponding sections of the existing cast iron pipe with new welded steel pipe at a depth of 36 inches, the district will ensure that the pipe is not damaged during the town's road reconstruction process. Under the terms of this coordination effort, the town will waive the requirements of the district to perform full trench restoration along Paradise Drive. The engineer's estimate for this project is $2,160,000 and it's scheduled to take 165 days with an estimation completion date of December 6th. If bid documents are acceptable, staff will make a recommendation at a future regularly scheduled board meeting for a contract award. The staff recommended action is for review and referral of the board with the operation committee's recommendation to proceed with the project. Thank you.
Questions?
Any questions?
No, thank you for that very clear, well-read explanation. So we've been looking at this for a while, so thank you.
So this is the other half of the work that was done on Paradise.
Yes, it's a portion of that other half. There's still another component that we're going to be doing in a couple of years with the fire flow program, but this does touch into that section.
And I presume it's going to take 1 lane for our work?
That is correct. So there'll be some traffic control involvement, coordination during that construction period and the phase, and obviously to do it in sections at a time, 200 to 300 feet. So there's a lot of coordination going on with the town, but it was kind of pretty fortuitous that based on the work they're doing, we're only going to be doing a plug pave instead of the full width restoration. So that's going to definitely save money on the project with respect to asphalt paving.
When are they going to repave?
They're looking at next year after we're done with putting our pipe in the ground. So they were able to coordinate with us, postpone their full depth project to next year to buy us time and give us the opportunity to put the pipe in the ground.
That one's going to be a bugger. There's not going to be any 1 lane stuff then,
There's no such thing as an easy project, right?
especially not on this part
No.
of Paradise. It's tricky.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope it goes as smoothly as the last one.
We're looking to do so.
I never heard a word from the city or from the residents. So
Perfect.
maybe because I unlisted my number, but
Yeah.
any public comment?
There are none.
Okay. Can I get a motion to forward to the board? Moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, item D, anode replacement contract.
Okay, we're still here. So Ava's going to be doing this one as well. So again, this project has been identified in the 2-year adopted budget. So Ava, go ahead.
Okay, the second project is the 2024 anode replacement contract. This project will be constructed in dirt along various locations in Marin County. The project will install 59 new magnesium anodes and 53 corrosion test sites to improve cathodic protection of our water distribution system. Test stations are located in various locations throughout the district's infrastructure system. The engineer's estimate is $72,100 and is expected to take 90 days. Expected completion date is October 8th of this year. If all bid documents are acceptable, staff will make a recommendation at a future regularly scheduled board meeting for contract award. The recommended action is for review and referral to a future regular meeting of the Board of Directors with the Operations Committee's recommendation to proceed with the project.
Is this replacement or it's new?
Replace.
Yes, it's replacement. Just some of the magnesium anodes get, used up over time. So this is replacing.
Questions?
And just a comment, it's good to see this kind of work move forward.
Mhm.
So lots of good maintenance and uptake. So thanks.
Public comment?
There are none.
Can I get a motion to refer it to the board?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Well, we got another one right behind it.
So you could tell Ava's been busy this year.
You get to see the product of your fruit of your work.
Yes, it's exciting. Okay, and then the final project is the 2024 anode rail replacement project. This project is located on Francisco Boulevard in the city of San Rafael. The project will rehabilitate an existing cathodic protection well that was originally installed in 1965. The new well will be 11 inches in diameter and 41 inches deep, installed in place.
41 feet deep.
41 feet deep.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Seemed a little shallow.
Yeah. The engineer's estimate is $165,000. It's expected to take 90 days, and a completion date is also in October of this year. If all bid documents are acceptable, staff will make a recommendation at future regularly scheduled board meeting for contract award, and the recommended action is for review and referral to a future regular meeting of the Board of Directors with Operations Committee's recommendation to proceed with the project.
Any reason it's 2 contracts instead of 1?
Different types of work. It's a great question, Director Russell. One is just replacing the 32-pound anode. So this is more involved requiring a well permit to drill out the old well and place a new one. So it's a little bit different than a standard magnesium anode replacement. So that's why it was broken up into 2 separate projects.
Maybe you'll get as lucky as we did in the last time we drilled here in Marin. County called me and said, "Oh, we know you. We trust you. We won't show up."
Oh, okay.
But they charge you for the permit. of
They
course.
still do. Correct.
As though they had showed up, which I always thought was interesting. Questions? Public comment?
There are none.
Okay. Can I get a motion to refer?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ava. Great job. The last one is the Microsoft 365.
Good morning, directors. My name is Brett Uppendahl, Finance Director, and I'm joined here by Brad Taylor, our IT Manager. And we have an item for you to consider for review and refer to engage us in a 3-year contract with Microsoft for Microsoft 365 services. And to tell you more about it, I'll turn it over to Brad.
Good morning. So as Brett mentioned, this proposal is to enter into an enterprise agreement between the district and Microsoft for the utilization of Microsoft's M365 services. This 3-year commitment would consist of annual payments at our anniversary date, and the M365 services included would be their enterprise level 3 subscription. So this is for up to 250 users, all of the Office applications, Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, OneDrive for business, Microsoft Teams collaboration tools, as well as Microsoft Defender cybersecurity platform, as well as server operating system and workstation operating system licenses. This agreement would really mark a significant step forward in the district modernizing its IT infrastructure. It would reduce the dependency on on-prem infrastructure and power. It would allow us to access services and data from anywhere via the web, and also provide seamless integration between business applications, email, and all the collaboration tools within the suite. What we're proposing is to piggyback on an enterprise agreement that was entered into, originally adopted by Riverside County, and has actually been used by the Marin County IT group for Microsoft 365 services, and to enter into our tenant into the commercial Azure public cloud infrastructure. This actually puts us in a really good place for the SAP ERP upgrade, because we're also looking at the RISE platform, which would be hosted in the same public cloud. So integration between the platforms would be pretty much seamless. The IT department is currently actively planning and projecting a completion of migration to all of these cloud services by the end of this calendar year. And clearly, the sooner we make the move and the more aggressive we are, the better the value in terms of the purchase of the software. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Questions?
No, thanks. Great to hear this is moving forward. Just a little bit on process. It'd be good to understand kind of how you went through conversations internally with staff, with external folks, and how we came to this conclusion. But I am supportive. It makes sense to me.
Great, I appreciate that.
So just briefly on process, I mean, since Brad has started here, we've been looking for ways to modernize all of our technology. And I think the underlying framework of our, exchange for email and all of our business applications is just very outdated. And so I think, it's standard to go towards Microsoft 365. And what Brad did was looked into the enterprise agreement, as mentioned. So Riverside County has kind of set the standard. The County of Marin recently also piggybacked on that. And so process on the actual selection of the software was relatively straightforward once we decided we're going this route. It'll get trickier, I think is what you're implying, as we roll it out, because change management and really making sure everyone has the tools and knows how to use the tools. It really will be a big shift in terms of how we all relate. And so we'll be putting together a working group to start rolling out the various pieces of it. And I believe, Brad, if I remember correctly, we're starting with email and then going to business applications, and then Teams will be third on the list. So kind of by phases as we roll it out, so that people can be comfortable and kind of maintain productivity without too big of a change at once.
Cool. Yeah, I've been through a lot of these major IT infrastructure changes, and the more people are included earlier, the more they're bought into it. Even if it's the right decision where you're going, then they feel a part of it. So it is the rollout and getting people to buy into changing their habits that's going to be the success of the project. So sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Do you have any idea what percentage of the U.S. businesses are doing this or have done it?
In terms of adopting the cloud services?
Yes, yeah.
I don't have an exact figure in mind, but I do know that in 2019, basically the number of sites that were adopting on-prem versus the number of sites that were adopting cloud, basically those two graphs crossed. And since then, since 2019, more adoption has occurred in cloud services than on-prem. So the on-prem software really is a dwindling market, and everything's moving to cloud.
Well, Microsoft's making that happen.
Yes, they are.
It's not too hard to see why Mr. Gates is so rich.
True.
What happens to the user? They just click on the word symbol, same as before?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the initial, as Brett alluded to, the first step in the migration will be to move our mail system, so our messaging subsystem, off-prem to the cloud. That'll be completely transparent to the user. They won't even know anything has changed. What they will notice is they'll have more and better access to those services off-site and remote. And I think the board members themselves will enjoy a better user experience in terms of email. We then deploy something called Teams, which basically is going to be one of the probably bigger cultural changes in the organization. That's instant messaging for business, but it also consists of a bunch of collaboration tools. We're trying to do what we can to sort of put as many Easter eggs into that solution as we can so that they can see the benefits of it. We've had mixed response so far from some business units. Some are very excited to get on Teams. Some are not quite as excited.
I'm not.
I think once you get a chance to use it and see the benefits, it can be
well, my exposure to it has been in their competitive side of the versus Zoom.
Right.
Our government clients all use it. I don't know why. I'm sure there's some pitch that Microsoft makes that it's more secure or something because the feds use it throughout. But what I've observed is I find it a little more tricky.
Mhm.
It's a little more, from my experience, which is fairly heavy with it. It's a little more discriminate in who it allows in, when it allows you in.
Yep.
So,
We're going to call on to Zoom. We're going to keep Zoom, which is what we're using now.
oh,
for
that
this
was my
meeting.
next question.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think in my experience, what has been a useful kind of phase and approach is to use Teams for internal communications and video
Mhm.
conferencing only. And whenever we do need to involve a third party, we use Zoom.
Yeah, although, I mean, it's something we should consider because Zoom has been kind of flaky on us.
Interesting.
I think so anyway. Something's flaky, whether it's our laptops or our
Network.
Zoom. Something's not quite getting there. So maybe when you have a chance, you could take a look at that side of our
Certainly.
operations too, to see if we can smooth it out because we've had I don't know what, about 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 meetings has a little bump.
Yeah, I think that's our own issue, not the Zoom company's issues. But I do internally makes a ton of sense. When you're using Microsoft Teams, you can share documents. You can use, same usernames, who's on there. You can invite broad people. It's a completely different application than obviously Zoom, which is really just for video conferencing. So makes sense.
Okay. Public comment?
There are none.
Okay, and I assume it's budgeted more or less.
Yeah, the costs for this were included in the 2-year budget. I think you'll notice the contract. We don't know the exact price because it'll depend on how many subscriptions we enter into and which services we use, but we do have the base price included in the budget right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was curious when you mentioned Riverside because it surprised me that Microsoft would come down to our level. We're relatively small
Yes.
in their viewpoint, but that explains it better how it gets linked in. So that's a good move.
Right.
Okay, we need a motion to refer to the board.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we're going to adjourn. Our next meeting is on June 21st.
Great.
Yep. So we do better sometimes. 15 is like the record. Yeah. This one had a lot of